Welcome back to another episode of Beta to Billions. I'm Adam Beebe, joined by Gabio as always. Today we have Michael Orndoff, aka Mo, as our guest panelist, and Mark. Somebody's name is always difficult to pronounce.
Don't even try.
Fershteyn?
Close. Yeah, Fershteyn.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Who is formerly of I believe it was called Peepsy, which is I think as of this morning rebranded to
Zealous.
Zealous. Very fun. So live marketing reveal on the show today.
Yeah.
I say live. This won't go up for like another week and a half, so it'll be old news by then. But
We'll have IPO'd by then, but it'll be good.
who knows? By then, maybe you'll have rebranded it another time. So we'll see what happens.
I feel like that was I feel like now I've been challenged, so I'm getting get it up as soon as possible.
Yeah, this needs to go out tomorrow. Awesome. Well, none of us have ever met Mark or seen the product, so this is going to be, I think, one of the most honest versions of the show so far. Mark, do you want to give us the quick your background and then the quick elevator pitch on Zealous?
Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Great to meet you all. Mo, I assume that's what you want to go by. So, but everybody else. So, my name is Mark Fershteyn. I'm the CEO. During my day job, I'm the CEO of a company called Recapped. We were one of the first collaborative deal rooms in the space. We started back in 2019. And if you don't know about deal rooms, essentially, it's a really easy way for B2B vendors to collaborate with potential customers and current customers, as well as their internal teams. During the last really year and a half, I've, like everybody else, fallen in love with AI, became obsessed with building products, and started using things like Claude Code and OpenAI, et cetera, to build everything that my CTO, probably rightfully, denied me access to resources on the engineering team to build for our teams. And so that means agents, et cetera. And really over that last year, a lot of these agents and workflows that I built, they worked, but they were very clunky. They were a folder on my desktop. It was a Claude Code terminal. And I realized there was no single UI that could bring all of my things that I'm doing together, right? Like, for example, on a given day, and I'm sure this is going to resonate with you, I have Notion, Zoom, Slack, HubSpot, Salesforce, Discord, WhatsApp, Chili Piper, Calendly, and plus another 15 tabs open, right? And so if I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on in a deal, or what's coming up next on my calendar, or even just take notes, whether it's something with my fiance trying to plan our honeymoon, or try and figure something out for work, I don't know where it lives, and it's really hard to manage things. And so I started Peepsy at the time as a personal operating system. Terrible name, but it made sense. And really quickly, when I started sharing the feedback and started using it, I realized that, okay, this is actually much bigger. This can be actually an AI operating system for revenue teams and founders. And that's really where we are today.
Great.
Makes
Thank
sense.
you for the background and for explaining the name. I like Peepsy, right? It's great, especially now that we got the background, but I do appreciate the rebrand too. So thank you for joining us, and Mo as well. Thank you for joining us and for letting everyone call you Mo. Do you want to give a quick introduction as well, and why you might be good at judging the tool that we're going to see today?
Yeah, of course. So Michael Orndoff, I do go by Mel in pretty much every aspect of my life now. It's been a long time since I've been Michael. There's a lot of us. So
You're in trouble when you're Michael.
pretty much. So Mo works great. I'm currently a director of commercial operations and strategy at a large SaaS business that does master data management and syndication. With that comes, a large book of business and a lot of accounts to manage, and a lot of people. So kind of really big on operational efficiency and building out scalable and sustainable processes cross-functionally within a business. Some of the kind of tools that we've leveraged to do that in our business, especially for our more complicated solutions, has been using things like Consensus and other kind of deal room software. So that's where I would say this software solution could fit into things that I would look into. And then historically, I've been in sales management, and then sales process optimization kind of across the board. I've also had a small consultancy firm that I've run for other businesses of smaller scale that would kind of leverage kind of the gambit of budget when it comes to solutions and software. So I would say In short, I would be your target kind of procurement gatekeeper for this kind of solution, because I'm sure it would be something that like my sales teams would find, be able to say like, hey, this could really benefit us in our negotiations or conversations with procurement teams and or buyers and economic buyers and users, champions, detractors, so on and so forth, right? So I would end up being the last person you would probably need to sell before we went to a procurement committee.
Yeah, been down this journey many times. So
Yeah.
So you sort of touched on it a minute ago, Mark, but what was, or you sort of touched on like the nexus for the problem, but what, as like a higher level statement, what is the problem that the product formerly known as PeepC solves?
yeah, so Zealous is essentially an AI operating system that brings together your inbox, your CRM, your calendar, your messaging, pretty much every system that a rep is living out of into one single place. It shares the context between all of those platforms for the first time, and then it layers AI agents on top of it to do the work for them. And so the problems that it's solving is obviously the confusion, the chaos, the cluster, and the inefficiencies that we see sprawling 75% of a sales rep's day, or even customer success rep on a given day.
Does that include social platforms? I mean, I'm asking questions we'll see probably get the answers to in the demo in a few minutes, but having not looked at anything, is it just like the messaging component, or is it going to pull in like LinkedIn posts as well?
As of 3 days ago, we also have LinkedIn automation as well.
Rebranding and live product updates, where this show has everything.
I love it.
Yep.
Cool. What other, is it primarily focused at sales? I'm going to lump like CS folks into this as well, but anybody who's going to be in those kind of deal rooms, or is it also targeting? Are you also targeting ops leaders or folks like in a fractional capacity where you're managing lots of different inboxes, perhaps? Like who else outside of the kind of sales rep? Who else is the target user?
Yeah, so great question. And so just want to clear it up. So this is really kind of like a complement to the Recap deal room platforms. There's not really going to be a lot of overlap on that. We are working on an API that will pull the deal room, like buyer engagement data, for example, but this is going to be completely separate. And this is really like trying to fill a lot of the holes that the Recap platform will provide, right? So for us, for this, because originally kind of like the nexus for starting this was me getting invited into a Claude Code hackathon and building this out for literally just myself, right? I wanted a personal operating system. And because I'm not the best organized person, I need like structure or I will be incredibly unproductive. And it started out with that. And then I realized, okay, I'm also a CEO and there's all these other things that I need. So I started building on that. And then I realized, well, I'm also play the role of a CRO at our company. So let me start adding these things as well. Let me do pipeline. Let me do deal reviews. Let me do call scoring. Let me do account plans. And so really just been following kind of this yellow brick road of whatever I need in my role. And everyone that I've showed it to so far, knock on wood, we're almost at like a 90% close rate right now on terms of like demo to, hey, I want this for my team. When can we get access? Happy to pay for it. And so it's essentially, it's very flexible right now on what we can build, but the zone that we're essentially figuring out is RevOps, sales, customer success, and C-suites.
Makes sense to me. Do we want to, Gabby, do you want to go, are you prepared for your social presence overview? And then we can go into a real demo.
Yeah. So obviously you're building your LinkedIn presence. So as Adam mentioned at the beginning, none of us have actually met you before, but I think you commented maybe on one of Adam's posts. So your LinkedIn presence is growing. What I am enjoying right now, though, is having and I can't believe I just said enjoying. I'm having a conversation with the chatbot on your website. So yeah. So I asked for a demo. And it said like, what do you want to know more about? Tell me more about you. And the responses do seem to be pretty on point, and it came up with a good answer for me. And then I did also sign myself up for the early access. I didn't get anything from that. That could be because you have a queue to go through. But so far it's looking pretty good with the chatbot.
Thank you. That is the newest product, one of the newest features that we added to that, because as a small team, I don't want to have to get on 50 demos, and I don't want our team being overwhelmed, right? And so we want to create this like magical experience from, either whether it's us reaching out to them on LinkedIn and automation, and at the end of that being like, oh, by the way, this was all done by AI. Wouldn't you want the same power? Or if they just happen to organically land on our website and they have that conversation, it's like, hey, you can also have these superpowers. So glad to hear that you're enjoying it. That's
Yep.
fantastic feedback.
And I was able to book a demo through that conversation. I was able to book a demo directly with you on Friday. So
Nice. Yeah. And then there was also Penelope. Obviously, you can create your own, but that was just the random name we came up with. Turns into a customer success manager once you do become a customer. So if you have any questions or you haven't been in the platform for a week or whatever it is, you have this personalized, tailored chauffeur that can help make you be successful.
very cool. Yeah, she started speaking. So sorry if you guys got interrupted a couple minutes ago. She started speaking to me. So I thought that was a nice touch too.
Yeah. Try and make it as human as possible, but
cool. Michael, preliminary questions.
I think you've answered a couple of them. Sorry if you hear my dogs, not Penelope, jumping into the background, but
Real life dogs, not AI.
yeah,
Someday.
it just hasn't gotten to that point yet where I can have a nice AI. No, I'm kidding. Sounds like you've answered some of my questions. So you're kind of targeting the full revenue lifecycle from lead all the way through the funnel to like effectively creating an advocate, because you said Penelope becomes customer success, right? So you're also going to kind of have customer success leveraging this platform. So when you say you connect to, mainly we use Salesforce or HubSpot, say you connect to one of those CRMs, is somebody managing their opportunities within Zealous and then feeding that information back into the CRM in kind of the ideal state or life cycle of leveraging the product based off of?
Yeah, Mo, great question. So the hero, first thing that you see on the website is never log into blank again. And that I think is really kind of like the antithesis of what we're trying to really drive here. So yes, so everything is bidirectional. The goal is that whether you're a rep, CRO, CEO, whoever, you don't ever have to log into any one of these other platforms because everything will end up in one single pane of glass for you. The UX is going to be 10 times better, and it's going to feed into whatever bidirectionally systems that you.
Okay, that makes sense. That spurs other questions for me, but I think there's a technical question portion that we'll get to later, so I can save some of those. How are your conversations with like privacy and compliance so far?
So far, good. My CTO and co-founder Recapped has helped me build out like the infrastructure and the architecture and all of the planning from day one. So we started and then we realized, okay, there was actually a lot of potential to this. Let's kind of start over and really, do this right. And so we spent a full day pretty much essentially building that out. Everything that we're using is, they're all SOC 2 compliant vendors. And we're using, very credible tech stack. We kept it purposely lean. So far, there haven't been any issues. We're finalizing legal updates this week, and SOC 2 will actually just be getting started here in probably the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Congrats. You guys targeting, so the company that I work with currently is global. So a lot of things that come up when people bring me great new softwares, it's like, cool, GDPR compliance. Is that something that you all are focused on currently or going to be focusing on as you kind of like ramp up?
We most likely will have to. We had to do it with Recap pretty early, and I imagine it's going to be the same thing. And actually, some of the earliest customers that we already have lined up are actually Recap customers because this obviously complements it. And these are large global orgs.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I think that's good for preliminary questions. I have more, but I want to kind of
I have so many questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for demo.
Please do not hold back. Like this is literally like us unveiling it, right? Aside from a couple of LinkedIn posts that I've had. And the only way to make it better is to get the harsh criticism.
We're here for it. All right,
we'll get there. Yeah.
All right, let's see if I know how to use Riverside.
Just ask Penelope; she can tell you.
Well, I won't get into it, but soon, actually. We'll see. All right, can you guys see my screen? All right, so on top of having the web app, I I was like, you know what? I've never built a Mac app before, so let's see if Claude Code can help. So now we have a Electron app that I've been essentially just living out of really for the last week and a half. And so everything that I do here can obviously be done on the website. And then we also made the mobile version pretty much almost like an app. You just have to log in on your phone through Chrome or Safari or wherever, and you can pretty much do all of this. So if you have any questions, let me know. We can dive into any of these. But really the first thing is we're going to come in here. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I can see you guys as well. Cool. So we're coming in here. Everything is being pulled in from all of those different places and pulled in here, right? So you have your email, your calendar, your Salesforce, your HubSpot, what am I missing? Slack, LinkedIn, Notion, Notes, etc. So I come in. I'm personally obsessed with like sleep scores and anything that I can gamify in my personal life. So we launched a productivity score that measures it on a day-by-day basis based on like the things that you do to try and gamify and make people as productive as possible. Email triage, what this does is Zealous goes through all of your inbox every couple hours and recommends archiving, replying, drafting an email, putting something up to the top of the inbox, whatever it is, and you can literally manage it. So if I hit done, for any of us that are familiar with Superhuman, essentially the exact same process. It's just archiving those emails so you don't even have to look at them. And you can go in and do that individually. We're also able to see what our team is doing across our workspace. Right. There's an AI brief that gives me every single morning if I want that. And then there's also AI suggestions of things that this can do for me. So for example, maybe I have a call coming up. Right? Or what I did 10 minutes before this, when I hit A on my keyboard, the AI assistant opens up. And all I said, and I did this about 10 minutes before our call started, I said, hey, help me prep for my meeting. Your next meeting's at 2:00, B2B, Peepsy, right? Joined Riverdale, Adam Beebe, etc., Gabby, right? What to know, what to talk about. And so it pulled all of this automatically through the web, through my calendar, and through my LinkedIn conversations with Adam. And so here's, if you want, I can go through any of this, but this is kind of like already how I'm living in this moment, right? With the tool.
From like the email perspective, inboxes and stuff like that, at least in my use of AI, it's always interesting to start as far as like training on context, right? Especially if somebody's going to talk about multiple things in a single email. How are you all kind of like optimizing the onboarding of Zealous to train that context from a business to business or user to user perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. So obviously a lot of it will get pulled in just in time, ultimately, right? As you add the integrations. Actually, so if I go to our settings and I go to AI, so what Zealous does behind the scenes is every email that you've sent in the past, we start with the first 30 days, it pulls that in, and it also starts learning your LinkedIn, your Slack, etc. And it starts creating essentially a profile of you. So this is just my style, right? So like zero pressure, so very casual, etc. This is very organic to me. And this also fed into Penelope, which you saw on the screen. So I had it train on that data as well. But all of this gets pulled in. And so it's analyzing that. And then if we go into the inbox, for example, and I look up, I don't know, I'm just going to grab something here, whatever it is, I'm able to come in here. And if I hit I, it's going to open this contact panel. It's probably not going to have much on this person. But what it is pulling all of that context. Right. So behind the scenes, essentially what it does is it makes a profile for every prospect and customer you interact with. And it's adding all of those context layers into that one prospect or that one person. And then in here, you can do really interesting things like predicting their personality. And obviously,
not enough data, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't know who this person is, but essentially, so like I went through and cross-checked this on like existing deals, existing customers, shared it with a couple of customers, and they like all laughed. They're like, yeah, okay, that's actually surprisingly interesting. So we have like disc profiles that get populated in there, as well as like any of the additional context. And then from here, we're able to, like, let's say I get an email from you. I want to very quickly be able to make a deal in HubSpot, sync it to an account, and then pull in any other related tasks that I have all into one place. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. Yeah. So it's basically like analyzing your activity for the last 30 days to start. And then I'm guessing like over time, Zealous is going to be learning and developing, but also probably looking back even further for some people or in some scenarios.
Yep, exactly. And so, like, for example, on some of those drafts, like that we saw in the inbox, if I hit it draft reply, it's going to then essentially create that draft in your voice, tailored to the personality of the person on the other side.
When it looks
That's
at the
awesome.
calendar meetings, like if there are like Google Drive files or like Google Drive files attached to a calendar meeting or anything that's like anything else that's relevant to what that meeting is, like can it find those, or do you have to like will you have to like I see there's like that files tab on the left, would you have to go in and manually add certain things or like associate certain folders with a certain meeting? Like I'm thinking like for my use case for Gabby, probably like having to context switch between clients on a regular basis to be able to just go like the prompt that you put in of just like help me prepare for my next meeting, and being able to do that 2 minutes before shifting to a different client and just being okay, right, like get that quick download based on previous call recordings, like all sorts of notes like flowcharts and things like that, to just be able to get in and not have to have that like 5 minute kind of reorientation moment.
So yes. So for example, if you see, I pulled up just another meeting I've got coming up here with a customer on Friday. It's automatically going to tell me what the related items are. Now, these can be emails that I've exchanged. These can be pages that I've created, notes, CRM data, all of that gets pulled in. And so, for example, on this call, right, I have it tagged as marketing, but if I come in here, and I go and I say, let me add a tag, and I call this like, I don't know, beta to billions. And now if I do that for anything else, all of that gets pushed in. The system will now start suggesting that tag to anything that has similar domains, similar companies, et cetera. So as more data comes in, and even retroactively, like once it really like recognizes that, now it's going to be like, hey, you have a call coming up at 2:00 with beta to billions. Here's 4 other things that are related. Do you want to use that as context?
It's pretty cool.
What made you all decide on the like segmented inbox? Like with a lot of tools similar to kind of Zealous, it's like kind of like here's all of your correspondence, and within that it kind of layers in, call it like chronological context, whether it was from like omnichannel as opposed to like inbox messages tasks. Like, do you find that was that like a intentional decision, or is that just more of like how you all are used to organizing your life?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So initially, we want to be able to. One thing I learned with Recap is it's very hard to change behavior. It doesn't matter how much you spend and how much time in training. Like people have their workflows, et cetera. And I think a lot of the ways that, at least for us as a team, the way that we think about it is really kind of, hey, I'm going to go check my email. I'm going to go check my messages. I'm going to go check my calendar. And so that kind of became like the hierarchy initially. But candidly, I think one of the best products I've ever bought was Superhuman. I've been a customer for 5 years. It's an incredible email capability. And I was like, well, listen, if we can just clone 80, 90% of the functionality, right? They've done such a great job in being a North Star. I think we'll be off to a great start. And that's what we did with the inbox. So the inbox essentially is our version with a couple tweaks of Superhuman's inspired kind of incredible email experience.
Makes sense.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So, Adam kind of touched on the fact that we do a lot of the context switching and we have different tools and different accounts across our clients. One of the things that the website mentions is that you are replacing tools, right? So we just looked at syncing all of your tools into a sort of unified inbox. Which ones are being replaced? Because I'm trying to figure out like what's the line of like bringing everything together versus like eliminating sort of some of them.
So essentially the way we think about it, right? It's whether you want to integrate and use third-party systems, right? Whether it's Calendly or Chili Piper, or Notion, or whatever it is, that's great. If you love those services and other people on your team use it, great. But the number one question that always follows up is, well, it's like, well, can we actually cut that spend and not have to worry about jumping into another tool and having Zealous become the first party? And so we're going to offer both for just about everything. So today we already have, even though we have the HubSpot integration, we also built out essentially our HubSpot Lite CRM version in here as well. We have an equivalent to Notion. So that's the pages that I'll show you in just a bit. We have, and I'll show you this. I think this is pretty cool. So if I go to scheduling, we now have a Calendly / Chili Piper replacement for booking pages. And we actually can go in and create a page that I can just send people. And Adam, I think this is how we booked initially. So now you can create this. So like as we start adding more in tools, we're going to essentially bake almost all of them as first party alternatives as well. So you can just cut that spend and have everything under one umbrella. There's Notion, there's, you can create files in here. You can use the AI to create files. There's a lot already. We have a forecasting feature as well. So for example, being able to come in here and see where our deals are. We're going to be, I don't know about call recorders yet, but we're integrating with a lot of them right now. We may build our own as well or integrate our own to like replace that because there's so much data that comes from that. But almost everything is going to have a first party Zealous alternative.
Great. So in terms of having it sort of update the CRM, send an email, schedule a meeting, how much of it is within my control and how much of it is like we're setting the AI loose and we don't really know what's going to happen?
Yeah, excellent question. So another tool that we're going to be hopefully replacing is Zapier and N8N. And so this workflow is, it's still a little bit of work in progress, but you're able to come in here and create literally the automations that we want, right? And so like there's a couple layers to this. One, we can create agents, which is the agent that triages your emails or creates a blog post from a call that you finished or updates your CRM or whatever it is. And then you can layer those agents with workflows such as this, right? We get off a call. I want to wait 10 minutes. I want to use a summarizing agent. I want to create a task. And then I want to do another agent to follow up my draft. And initially, we're not letting this, we're going to gate how much of this is automatic because we want to make sure that the system works well and that the results are really, really good. But over time, as we gain more confidence and as the users gain more confidence, they'll be able to just run this on automation. Right now, there is still that human approval, as I think we should in the early days.
Okay. How much of what we've talked about so far, like the inbox prioritization and the associations and all of the intelligent features, how much of that is sort of native versus needs to be established with like the workflows, the agents, that sort of thing? Like how much of it is your setup versus our own setup?
Yes. Excellent point. So I'm sure we've all heard about OpenClaw and CloudBot and everything that's going on in the news. Incredible software, incredible, right? But overkill for most people. And so with Zealous, what we essentially wanted to do was to create a safe, out of the box, OpenClaw alternative that can be used in the enterprise. And so the whole philosophy behind Zealous is you come in, you plug a couple things in, and everything just works magically. You should not have to do anything. You can have the customizations if you want, but if we're doing a good job, we're recommending things that you don't even have to do, and we're doing it before you even think about them, right? So automatically you come in. I don't know how many agents this is. I think it's probably like 20. Where I'm constantly adding new ones, but this is just out of the box. And the most core ones are already baked in, like the daily brief, the email triage, the AI recommendations. Like everybody gets those automatically turned on, and then they have a whole group of things that they can go through. And then if you want, we created a marketplace where you can find different page templates. So for example, maybe you want to create a page that's, meeting notes or grabbing call transcripts into product feedback or whatever it is, right? Like a weekly planner, et cetera. And then you're also able to go in and grab email templates and grab those as well. And over time, we're going to keep adding more and more, right? We'll have agents in here as well. So people will be able to submit their own. So you can come in here and say, I really want this customer success QBR template. I wonder if there's anything in there. There's 5 variations that people submitted and left reviews and whatever. They grab that and then they just tell the agent to run or plug it in a workflow and it runs by itself.
Okay.
So you've shared. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Nope. Can I squeeze one more in? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go.
Okay.
Go.
I've taken these as good signs.
So, like a lot of my clients have extensive customization in their CRM. When we think about doing things like CRM updates, are we doing that via like API, or is that something that's being conducted by an agent? Like when we have those sort of extra layers on typically what is the user interface of Salesforce or another CRM, right? There's some additional control there. So I think I'm just trying to understand the mechanism of action in those updates to make sure that if we did set guardrails, all of that would be adhered to. And
Yes.
maybe maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's just kind of one of the things that jumps out to me.
No, absolutely. So we learned a lot of these lessons with Recapped because, as you can imagine, everything that you do in the deal room should end up in Salesforce and vice versa. And so a lot of that was baked in from day one. So for example, here I'm coming in, I'm looking, well, I'll back up a little bit. I'm able to see my team view, deals, contacts, companies. This is for HubSpot, opportunities, accounts, same thing for Salesforce. And so I'm able to come in here, and if I want to change the industry or I want to change anything bidirectionally through APIs, I can do it without the clunky interface of having to log in and wait 5 minutes for HubSpot to load or whatever it is. So if I want to look at NVIDIA, I'm coming in here and it's just going to have the bidirectional sync right here in real time. You can customize which fields are synced, which sections we even want to show, the order of them. We respect the validation rules that are set in both because teams have spent a lot of time and money customizing those. And so this is essentially just going to be the interaction layer on top of that. And then we went ahead and created kind of like some first party components into this. So not only having kind of like the bidirectional sync, we're going to be able to come in and look at all of the related emails, calendar invites, et cetera, right here in one place. The call transcripts, we're going to be able to generate an account brief using AI. We have account intelligence on renewal risk. This is something that we've been using a lot for our enterprise customers or enterprise prospects is like SEC filings and 10Ks, right? So now we're pulling that in and like enriching the data. If we want to have account plan and SWOT analysis, I can just go ahead and have AI generate that based on, again, all of this shared context. Right? That gives us an account health score. That gives me an AI coach that helps me navigate this account and how I should go ahead and manage this. Right. So it hopefully is just a full 360-degree view of everything and everyone pertaining to every account.
So I guess that's kind of like getting into the more technical side of things, like Gabby was mentioning, is like people put a lot of work and effort into setting up controls or guardrails inside their CRMs and systems in general. Like from a technical perspective, is Zealos connected to my Salesforce as an integration user, as an admin user, at a user record level, so that like, and then how are you feeding back errors and fault codes when somebody doesn't kind of meet the requirements within the system of record? Because I would say this is like a lot of other tools that are kind of coming out now. They're becoming systems of action that then sounds like you want to evolve into a system of record and kind of replace kind of the incumbents. Lofty, but I get it. How are you actually having these two systems connecting and communicate with one another while also ensuring the powers that be get everything they want where they are?
Absolutely. So a lot of this, we're just going to piggyback off of the learnings that we've had with Recapped. Our integration for Salesforce and HubSpot is like 4 years old at this point. So as you can imagine, there's billions of dollars that have been transacted through that we've learned from. So right now, everything is at an OAuth per user level. We will be adding an integration user as well, because that's obviously very common for some of our customers. And then the error codes, we are bringing in anything that you would see in the system. And then we're working on having, this should be live soon, we're going to be adding a simpler AI solution recommendation below that as well. So like, for example, let's say you get an error. As a rep, you may not know what the hell that means. So we're going to give you kind of like the simple solution to how to fix that or who to go talk to in common cases like that.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm still super, we'll call it like, I question just even connecting kind of the incumbent major iPaaS tools between systems like Zapier or NADN. you run into so many issues with fault handling and error codes that like, it sounds like almost taking the human out of the middle. It's going to be problematic.
Yeah. I think we've learned this the hard way with a lot of the years that we've been spending with Recapped. Thankfully, like, again, with the architecture and the planning, et cetera, so far, I mean, obviously it's very limited, but so far the like fault tolerance has been pretty high, and we haven't really run into that much. Like, for example, I wanted to just kind of show something, right? So again, I went ahead and actually used Zealos to plan for this call. So everything that I've been saying, I have it off to the other screen. A lot of this was all generated, right? Like the AI operating system that I talked about earlier. The entire plan of what I was going to demo you, it's all in here. But now what I can do is come in here and again, start using and going like, hey, let's take this podcast plan and create a LinkedIn post about it. All right, to promote beta 2 billions and Zealous. And it's like going to go ahead and do that. And so one of the ways that it's been really, really helpful. And the reason we've been able to really kind of like accelerate this product feedback is every call that I get on, that feeds into here because it's pulling from Zoom. I have that then create a page for the product feedback. And then I have a folder of now, 15 or so product feedbacks. I then have it summarize all of that in another one. And now we have 15 calls, all summarized, features, feature description, scope, etc. I have Zealous LinkedIn message those people and say, hey, if we build X, would you pay Y? They say yes. And we go, okay, great. We'll go build that. Right. And all right, so here's actually something really interesting, right? So I have a page called Best LinkedIn Posts that I have as, the ones that have gone viral for me. And so it's automatically picked up and used that without even me having to reference it. And now here's a couple, I'll just zoom in. And now here's a couple options that it's giving me on what we can do. And it's now created a page. So now I can come in here and load it.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess one other question that I kind of have, because with the call it broad use cases for Zealous can do almost anything and everything based off of what you're kind of showing us.
Yeah.
Who builds what, right? Like, I work in revenue operations. I get 30 requests a day for a seller to get admin rights to one of the tools that we use. That it's just not going to happen. This would be one of those tools because, hey, that's cool. I get you want to automate that. That's not your lane. I need you to sell stuff, right? So how are you all controlling who gets the keys?
So a lot of that is team-based permissions and structures. So you're going to be able to go in and have different team admins. For example, you can have super account admins to be able to drive that. But I agree with you. Again, I keep going back to this, but one of the lessons we learned in Recapped where, similar to like the sales lofts and outreaches of the world, people can go in and create personal templates or team templates. And if you give the wrong access to some people, like maybe they're just like very, overzealous and they go in and create 50 templates. But now every time a user goes in, they see 50 templates on their account that they should not be seeing. Right. And so it's like, who manages that? Ultimately, where I'd love to be is that Zealous recommends which content needs to be cleaned up, what information needs to be in there, and who has access to it based on things. And the system will help self-regulate. Now, that's not available today. It's kind of a little bit more of a longer, lofty vision. But I do really mean when I say I want people to log in and it just works. You don't have to go in and do that. And I know it scares people when you talk about things like systems and RevOps and consulting, but I don't think we're that far off from a future where the system is intelligent enough to know what good looks like across most organizations and recommends that. And I think it'll be better than 80% of what people are doing today.
My one-liner for that is my business is a snowflake. Yeah. There's no other business on earth like my business.
Yeah.
We do everything
none
special.
None of us are that special at the end of the day.
You have anything enough, you're just like everybody else.
Yeah.
80%, like everyone comes to us, right? Where they're like, oh, we're so unique. We have this. And I go, well, I guess I imagine you're probably running an XYZ. They go, how did you know? Like, well, we had 5 conversations on Tuesday that resembled essentially that across 5 different industries. So yes, there's always like that special sauce in the 20, 30%, but the gross margin of it is everyone's more or less trying to solve similar goals and has similar challenges.
Okay. It looked like when you were having it generate some of that LinkedIn post content, it looked like it was maybe using Claude. So is that my Claude? Do I get to bring in my Claude and my Chat GPT and then selectively choose which one to use for certain tasks?
So today, and this all may change, right? And we're still figuring it out. The way that we're doing pricing is per seat plus credit based. So based on different personas and different use cases, where the person who wants LinkedIn automation is very different than the person who wants to just consolidate everything in one place, right? So today there is no bring your own keys. We're charging for the credits that are being used, and it's just that plus a little small percentage on top of that. Now we are going to add more and more models, especially cheaper models, because while this work is great, Sonnet and Opus add up really, really quickly and they get really, really expensive. Over the last 3 weeks, I've spent just under $100, which for all of the work that it's done for me, I probably would pay 5 times that. Now, when you scale that across 100 employees doing 50 deals a quarter, it starts adding up, but that's how we're thinking about it.
And salespeople that don't know what budget is.
And I know CFOs do not like variable pricing. So
yeah, no, you would not get into my business. I told Salesforce to kick rocks with RCA because they were like, it's usage-based based off quote generation. I don't know how many quotes they're going to generate. There's no CPQ today. I don't know how many agent requests they're going to have.
Well, listen, Mo, I'd love your feedback on how we can overcome that and get your business.
Ooh. How's your reporting on usage? Oh, go Gabby.
Sorry, no. I have so many questions. I'm going to dominate the conversation. I apologize. So on the website, one of the things that you compare yourself to is Gong. And so I think that this is sort of twofold. Can we talk a little bit about the voice features? There's 2 things that I'm thinking about here, right? So obviously their call transcription and insight component of Gong and how you replace a tool like that. But then additionally, it seems like there's also some sort of voice control through the interface. And like, do I literally tell my agent? Do I speak to it like Penelope spoke to me? How do those different features sort of look in real life?
Yeah. So first off, I think Gong is an incredible platform, probably the best in terms of like sales execution over the last 5 years. So major respect for them. But yes, we are working on trying to replicate and eliminate that. So here's if I go into pipeline, I go to my team view. This is where I'm able to see. I'm able to see again my reps, right? Me and this guy Jack Smith. And if I click on, for example, so we have leadership. If I click on Mark Fershteyn, those call transcripts that are pulled in from Zoom, from Avoma, from tools like Gong that we're working on integrating with, we're able to compile that in here. I'm going to just zoom in. This is about a day old, so you guys are getting a first peek at this. But essentially, one of the biggest complaints that we've heard from a couple customers is that it's really hard to learn what the best reps are doing, standardize it, make it a playbook, and then also compare reps. Right? Hey, Mo is really, really great. He's crushing quote every single month, but this guy Mark, like he's missing the mark every single time. So what is the difference? And so one of the things we want to be able to do is not only from the call scores, obviously, but also layering in Slacks, calendars, emails, all LinkedIn, all of that other data. We're going to be able to start giving you kind of like a chart here of very actionable coaching and like growth opportunities ultimately. So that's kind of like the second piece.
Seems like you should get your agenda and context skills up.
Yeah. Well, I had to build a platform that helps me stay on task. So no surprise. The other piece is I'm just going to hit A. We're going to hit a new actually, you know what? I'll say, go ahead and go with option 1, but let's make it more concise. Let's make the hook more emotional, and let's tailor it to a persona of Gabby who runs marketing ops at a Fortune 500. And of course, it doesn't work when I need it to, but it would. I wonder if something broke, but yes. So if you hold the option key at any point and you keep talking, I don't know why it's not working, but it should push it in there, and you can control pretty much anything in the app just by talking to it. Here, I'll test it on the local and we'll see if this works. Can you tailor this into a LinkedIn post? Yeah, okay. Figured I'd hit something that didn't work on the demo. But
It would be a demo if something wasn't broken. So yeah, no, you're totally fine.
Just means
All
that
right.
it's real and the whole thing isn't AI.
not yet.
I love a diagram. And I think one of the things that you claim to replace is like Miro and Lucid chart. What does that look like in here?
Let me show you this. This is awesome. So we'll come in here and we hit /whiteboard. And we're just going to go ahead and expand. And now we have, and then we can leave comments on this and we can all collaborate together.
And can I pull like a schema from my CRM into this and mark it up?
That is a really good idea. Not today, but give me a couple days.
Tomorrow.
By the time this
You're
goes
welcome.
live. Yeah. By the time this goes live.
And in episode 4 revised, we'll have that feature.
Well, so actually, the reverse though is true, right? So you can take this, export it as a PDF, attach it in an email, send it out for signature, right? We have electronic signatures of 2 days ago. That's cool. Or drop it into so like, for example, if you tag it, the same tag as that deal or that account, it will show up as a related item in the pipeline as well. And then like one of the things that we're really trying to break, I know I said like change management is really hard, but I want people to start thinking about all of these things as kind of like a lump, right? Like when we think about X account, it's not just X account in HubSpot or Salesforce. It's every interaction I've ever had with them. It's the files. It's the planning that we're doing behind the scenes, the Slack conversations. All of that should be in that little pile so that you don't have to go looking anywhere else, if that makes sense.
Okay. Here's what I'm struggling with. It seems to do everything, right? And the question that I asked early, like, what is it replacing? What is something that what is something that it can't replace? Like, what do I still like? What does it not do?
Hasn't done my taxes just yet. That's top of mind. I mean, look, I don't know the answer, right? This, believe it or not, this whole thing is 3 weeks old. So, for us, it really is like where I see the future of SaaS and our space in particular is that everyone is going to try and become a system of record. Everyone is going to try and become a API or like an aggregator of system of records, which is what we're trying to do here. I don't believe that companies or users will live in Claude Code or Claude Cowork or whatever. That will be the plumbing that goes between systems. And I think they're going to do a fantastic job of owning that. So really what we're trying to do is create this magical UX that brings all of that together and is like the glue. So hopefully this replaces everything, but we want to do it in a very, very intentional way. There's like 50 integrations we can add right now, but we want to make sure we're not, if the panel is 50 items on the left-hand side, that's just as clunky and bad for UX and user adoption as any of the other tools out there that suck. So I don't know. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for this is like, it does everything. And that's why we're focusing on revenue teams and being kind of like the command center, the operating system.
You touched on pricing, but should we talk about that a little bit? So it's per seat plus credits. Is that credits a purchase and allotment in advance, or are you billing on, is it consumption in arrears?
Yes. So every plan is going to come with a certain amount of credits because we want people to see, we never want to limit the AI usage. We're probably not going to be doing freemium for a while just because we want the people who share who this really resonates with, those are going to be the early adopters. Right now, we just have a $25 top up, and then we're going to add different packages with different incentives for buying in bulk, et cetera. And then the per seat pricing right now that we're looking at is $100 and $200 per user per month, all subject to change. And the sales assistant is going to be probably an add-on to that as well, or maybe be a third tier.
Is the 100 and 200 difference based on are there feature gates, or is that just credit a credit amount difference.
Feature gates, yeah. And then the credits you can just use across whatever you have access to. So, like for example, I think LinkedIn automation will be here. I want to be mindful here because there's well, let's see. We'll just pull ours up if you don't mind. Here we go. So, like, write a concise LinkedIn message to Adam, getting him excited about having me on as a guest.
It was the promise of AirPods, which have yet to show up.
Yeah, I told you I couldn't afford AirPods for you, but maybe someday. Yeah. Okay. So again, a little bit of a bug here, but that's fine. But here it is. All right. Again, my language.
I feel like Adam has to confirm that. Does it sound like Mark wrote it?
Yeah. It's a relatively limited interaction.
Yeah.
I would believe it came from him.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, that is how I write. So, and so the reason I got distracted, but the reason I said this right is like the person who wants this kind of functionality is going to look very different than someone who just wants to consolidate everything in one place, right? And so right now we're talking like all the CROs and CEOs that we're talking to, we're like, hey, what are the 3 features that are like really the game changer for you? And that's how we think about the pricing. But we want to offer a lot of this on like the lowest plan because it's magic, and it's not even like a Zealos thing. It's just like AI is just incredible if used properly.
Not a CEO or a CRO, but the features that I think resonated the most and the things that I was the most excited about seeing were partially the inbox aggregation, but then and when we talked about the calendar thing, being able to grab relevant content for calendars for meeting prep was huge. And then, well, the inbox aggregation, but also the pulling like the Slack and like everything kind of under one roof is, I think, the biggest selling feature for me. Where I'm struggling a little bit to see how it would work for me, or with a lot of like maybe being more so on the fractional side of things. It's maybe more in some cases and less in others appropriate. But you even started kind of mentioned like aggregating multiple systems of truth. I feel like there's over time, we like so many point solutions in the past. Like Gabby and I talked about this on a podcast like last year, where so many other tools everything became a platform at some point. And we kind of had a bit of a shift back to everything being a point solution with the sort of this like first wave of AI tools of, okay, here's an agent that just does this one thing. It does it really well. And now that task is automated. And we're like, a lot of that, I think, happened over the last like 18 months or so pretty effectively. And now we've kind of seen this swing back towards, well, all these like point solution AI tools are becoming this large scale platform again, where because it can do so many things, it's like, oh, well, we just keep doing more and more and more, which is good if you don't have all of those other tools on top of that. Like I see all of this and I go, okay, well, I don't need Notion, I don't need Zapier, I don't need Salesforce, I don't need an actual inbox, I don't need a Calendly, I don't need a call recorder. If I can get rid of all of those things, and Zealos is now just my tool. Like I'm down to a tech stack of one. That's a selling feature for me, because I go, well, like managing like my own business, because I go, oh, I have one subscription to worry about. I don't have to do anything else. And like with the agents and just with the potential to be able to integrate into anything else I would need being there, I go, okay, great. Again, like I have a tech stack of one versus a tech stack of however many that also exist today. I'm going to put this on top. And then now, like, where am I going to do certain things? Because this feels like the home base for my messaging, my calendaring, like the kind of like administrative component of the job. But, and we didn't get into the pipeline and forecasting as much, or the proposal side of things either. But like when I think about running pipeline review calls, I know where I'm going in Salesforce or in HubSpot or in some other BI layer to do that sort of run those meetings. And if that all happens in here, okay, as maybe that works too. But then are the reps now managing deals within Zealos? Right? Like that's where I start to get a little confused. It's like for an individual like myself, this feels like a great home base, and maybe that's the selling point. But then as we start kind of getting rid of some of those other things, like where do the rest of the teams live, and where is their primary data entry, knowing that this was kind of meant to be like, again, kind of the aggregator of all those other things. Like, does everybody just eventually live only in Zealous, or like how does this work with, I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but like how does this play with the rest of a tech stack across a, kind of typical mid-sized SaaS company?
I love that question. That's a really good question.
Thank you. I came up with it on the fly and just kept talking.
Yeah, no, we've definitely focused on the individual and not so much the team. And so it would be good to see how that's reflected.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you came across a really point, right? Which is the way I think about it, at least, is the team is really just a collection of individuals, right? And so if it works seamlessly and flawlessly for a single individual, as long as we have the multiplayer logic and the UX built in a really thoughtful way, then there's no reason that it shouldn't work for a collection of teams. Is Zealous going to replace all of the other tools that they're living in and accessing? That's the entire bet that we're placing, right? Like literally the hero that we put on the website is like, never log into Salesforce again, never log into HubSpot again. Those came from customer calls. Right? And they're like, literally, they're like, if you could just make it so that I don't have to jump into 8 tools on a given day basis, that by itself, forget the AI, forget anything else, just that piece alone, I would pay $200 a month for. I'm like, great, we can do that. So yes, ultimately, like I want to eat all of these tools' lunches because I don't think most of these tools are that good. I'll go on record saying that. I don't think most of these tools have actually helped sellers close deals because for the last 20 years, we've spent trillions of dollars in B2B software and RevOps and tools, and our close rate is still the same shit that it was 20 years ago. It's 20%, right? If these tools were that good, we'd have a 50% close rate. And that to me is just like someone who's been a lifetime seller. I don't know. It's just offensive. I don't know if any of that answers your question, but that's one of the things we want to solve here.
I mean, it sounds to me like the integrations and the pulling data from all of the other sources is mainly an onboarding thing. And then from there, you're like, you wouldn't even know if I took your Salesforce from you because you're already here.
Exactly. Very well said.
Yeah. I think my question becomes like, how is implementation doing feasibility review? How is accounting ensuring the products and the pricing is accurate and discounting approvals are taking place? How are executive leaders reviewing forecast? Everything gets aggregated in Zealous and you have like pipeline and forecast. So like I have sales teams that put deals with no information into commit today in my system. Is Zealous going to fix that?
So actually, if we go,
sorry, that was like a 3-part. Like,
so first off, I would love to schedule some call. I'll buy you lunch. Would love to get your feedback because this is exactly
is that like where the AirPods are? No.
Yeah. Adam doesn't get any, but Mo
I get
does.
them first. Okay, Michael doesn't get any until I get mine.
Listen, if you guys sign up as customers, I'll buy you each some AirPods. How about that?
I hope to do it.
So actually, one of the things, right? I've seen this as a VP, like as CRO, like countless, right? It's like, well, I think we're going to close this, and it's like, well, no, bullshit. And so, for example, one of the first things we added on the forecast was AI and rep disagreements, and AI is pretty brutal. So if I come into a test deal, here are all the reasons why this should be an omitted versus pipeline, and we can now come in here and start, snapshotting this, et cetera. If we go to the waterfall, it's telling me what is changed. Deal flow, it's telling me what's moving in and out, et cetera. So like roundabout way of saying we're already thinking about some of these things. Would love your feedback on how we can make this better and tighter. But yeah, I think, again, with very rare exceptions, are there tools that you actually need to go and live out of, in my opinion? Because most of them suck. Most of the UX is terrible. And we put up with so much of the software. And it's almost like a hostage situation. That shouldn't be the case.
I think the short answer to that is like, it's what's dictated to you as a seller as to where you need to live. And then even then, if you don't adopt it, it's still horrible for anybody in your leadership team to be able to see what you're doing. So change management's always going to be kind of the long pole in the tent, for lack of a better word. So, but moving on to the second part of that question, like implementation, accounting, finance, how are these people going to be like digesting information? Because like this is very sales focused, and how can I make a seller's life easier? That usually means that downstream impact is someone else's life just got harder. So talk to me about how Zealous solves that as I think you said a team is just a collection of individuals. People on my team, they do accounting, finance, and implementation and professional services. So what does Zealous do for them?
So thankfully, we've had 6 years of experience on this. So with Recapped, right, we have customer success and partnership and sales really is kind of like the main personas. There's also product, there's marketing, there's finance, accounting, legal, all of these other people who are involved in deals. And so the way that we solved that with Recapped was view-only licenses, where essentially they're able to collaborate. They're not able to create deal rooms, but any piece of behind the scenes that they can come in, they can engage and collaborate. And so we're thinking right now of taking a very similar approach where one of two things. One, they can just continue living in the systems that they want, right? Which goes back to the earlier point. Like if I'm a rep, and even if my CRO is not using this, I can use this, assuming I have the permissions, I can use this to manage my day and become a better rep and be more effective. And as long as it ends up in X system that my CRO checks, it doesn't matter, right? Or vice versa. Now on the, so one is like, they can just continue using the systems that they're doing today. That's fine if they love them. Two is we get them in here and they could come in here and say, they go to a pipeline deal and they leave a comment. And
does this replace Recapped? That's what I want to know.
Not today, purposefully. It probably could, but we don't want to cannibalize the golden goose right now. But like you can create a page in here, call it a deal room, share it with the client, have them come in and engage, track their analytics, see what they're clicking on, put links in there. Like it pretty much fills the gap of everything else that Recap does not do.
Cool. Well, I think we're officially up on time, so we can move on to the sort of game show part of it and go through scoring and get to some verdicts. Yeah. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories: product market fit, usability, need, integrations, pricing, and then uncapped bonus points. Everything else is out of 5. I'm going to go backwards. I've got 2 bonus points, one for each potential AirPod, but we'll see if those pan out. I told you, look, it's been in my LinkedIn headline for like almost a year now, and the number of SDRs that have reached out to me, credit to them for actually reading it and being like, I'd love to get AirPods for you, but I can't. I'm like, well, then that's the cost of the demo. So,
I only need one. Only one of mine is broken.
Yeah. The business that they're making just off of one replacement pod, I think, puts it in
one single AirPod. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I don't remember the numbers offhand, but it's like shockingly high.
I wonder if it's cheaper to buy 2 individuals than just another whole set, because I don't need a new case. Mine still charges, but
it's just a collection of 2 individual pods,
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, so back to the top. So product market fit, out of 5, I said 2, which feels harsh, but I'm still not 100% sure who it's for. I think there are certain features that make a ton of sense for quite a few different personas, but to put it all under one umbrella, and maybe this is solved with the 2 pricing tiers. But I think to put it all under one umbrella and sell it as here is a single platform to do everything. My like initial reaction is like, kind of like what I was saying a few minutes ago, of just like, well, we have stuff that does a lot of these things, and this feels like a fun layer on top. That said, usability, I gave 4 out of 5. Everything we saw, like all the click paths, when the AI worked, like which I know is that not through no fault of your own, but like everything that we just saw, like was very slick. I think the UI is very clean. I think if you could put it in most people's hands and like they would be up to people who are technical and know how to use these types of, like you'd be up to speed pretty quick, no doubt about that. Integrations, I also scored very highly. Like the fact that you could, with having the agent built in to just like, hey, build me an integration to this other tool, like no doubt you'd be able to connect to just about anything. And then having SOC 2 compliance, that's also going to be a big selling point there. Pricing also scored very highly at 4 out of 5. It makes sense. I'm a little like the value you get for the money, I think would be a little TBD in terms of, okay, right, if I'm using this super heavily and I'm constantly having to click that $25 top up like on a daily basis, it feels like it could run away very quickly. But at least for like a starting point of like, hey, I'm going to use this to just solve some problems that I'm running into, or at least get the base functionality out of the inbox aggregator and stuff like that. Feels pretty reasonable. The other other area where I dinged is the need. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with product market fit. Again, those core functionalities that I talked about earlier of going, these things solve problems in my life feels fantastic. Everything else, it feels like there are a lot of things where I've gone, oh, it would be great if I had something that I could do, or like I would like to do something. It's like every idea has come to fruition here, which is very cool to see. But I don't know how many people need all of them under one roof. I think, I would think if long term this becomes just the core, like I was saying, like if you could get to a place where you have a tech stack of one tool and this is it, then I think we're really onto something.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna sort of like just add on to what Adam said because my scoring was almost identical to his. I'll be very candid. I have partnerships with at least 3 of your competitors that you've called out on your website. However, I could still see myself I need a productivity tool because of the complaints that I brought up earlier in the call, right? I have so much going on. I have clients across multiple different accounts. And like one of the best things I invested in the past year, and I will tell everybody about it, is like just a thing that just syncs all my calendars together, right? And so like even those like little tiny things, making those easier for me and consolidating them, that's a big deal for me. I started to get overwhelmed when you went into like all of the other things that it can do. And that's where I, like Adam said, like is it great? Yeah, it's great. It might be too great. Like I'm struggling to figure out like where does it fit? And I think and to be fair, I think you've called out on your website, like there is a fit for like, I think you've got like 12 different personas on there. And so I think for me, I'm just struggling to visualize how one thing just does all of that and without getting overwhelmed. And I think for me, the pricing is concerning because your base price seems great. It's very affordable. That's wonderful. But I am having a hard time figuring out if I can afford it because I don't know what I would use in credits, right? And so just like when I see, $100 or $200 a month per user, I'm like, great, that sounds awesome. But then like at the end of the month, it's like, can I actually afford what the bottom line ends up being? And I just don't know. So I think it's great. It's wonderful, right? But I'm struggling to wrap my head around it. And that's probably a me thing.
I don't think it is. I'll give my obviously feedback afterwards, but Mo, I'd love to hear. Thank you, Gab.
Yeah. I mean, similar to Adam and Gabby, my product market fit, it's hard to tell what your ICP is. So like to say like your market could be anybody that's using Salesforce or HubSpot today, which covers such a wide breadth of companies and organizations with different levels of complexity and understanding of how they run their businesses. That's like, so I gave you a 3. Just because it's like the most neutral option that I would be able to go with, because I wouldn't say you don't have product market fit. I would just say, I don't know what market you're going for, right? That's the main thing. From a usability perspective, I went 4 out of 5, similar to Adam, because yes, it's very usable. Where we get into like questions about your usability is like, where do I go to do what? So it's all about just, again, change management and understanding of like, I think I have a psychology background. So when we were learning behavioral psychology, the main thing about change management was like you have to teach to like the 8th grade level because that's the average level of education across most of the US and most markets globally, right? So it's like, how much coaching do I have to do the same level of change management and enablement that I would for Salesforce or HubSpot that they've been in, my teams have been in for like 5 years to start to use Zealos tomorrow, right? Like, so, but it is very usable. It's just kind of like, how can Penelope make that easier on somebody who's like an admin or a decision maker for somebody that's for RevOps efficiency, to Gabby's point, productivity, right? Like that's what this is trying to get gains on. Which Gabby, I agree, same thing. I invested in Use Motion back when they were just a calendar organizer, and they synchronize like 6 of my calendars, and it keeps me from double booking even across like W2. So like that was like the biggest problem that I could need solved. it's cool to see it in another tool like Zealos. I would say focus is the main thing that I think from any like could kill any product, right? So from a need perspective, again, I have a complete tech stack today, so I'm going 2 out of 5 on my need. If you got in your foot in the door, I integrated all of my other tools and eventually was able to start saying like, oh, I can pull this one out because I don't need it anymore. I could totally see that being beneficial, but it does kind of play into my score on pricing. It's also like 2 out of 5 because usage-based pricing, especially with something like using agents and AI and how much you've ingrained your agents and AI into your system, like I don't have enough of an understanding of like how many credits a single user may use.
Yeah.
And I would be extremely reliant on your ability to tell me, well, what does somebody in this kind of persona do? And then like, I have 8th graders and they're going to color outside the lines. You know what I mean? So it's like I have to, and so managing that, I can understand why your conversations with CFOs could get difficult, right? Because it's like there's no control there. Integrations, I give you 3 out of 5 because it looks like you could do everything. And with the advent of AI, you can, right? It's just all about like how much time and effort somebody's going to put into replacing something like a Zapier and what workflows they're going to leverage. And I think that covered everything, right? Integrations need usability, PMF, pricing. No bonus points for me because
Not yet.
not yet.
Oh, I did give you 1 bonus point for being a good sport. Like for for jumping on as soon as you did onto a podcast and just reaching out on LinkedIn and like just going for it. So I think that's great. I just want to compliment you on that.
I appreciate it. You guys crushed my dreams. No. So
you got big dreams. It's easier when they're large, you know?
Yeah, I think
Like
that's my
before,
problem.
you know?
I think I just don't dream big enough and I like need things to fit into a box.
I'm over here like, I need a point solution for this one thing, and this does like 97. I'm like, can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. So like you guys, I think hit the nail on the head, right? Like, so first I appreciate the feedback. I'm going to take all of this, feed it into Zealous, come up with objections for my
There you
next
go.
call, and we'll go with that. But we also have to remember, like, this thing is 3 weeks old, right? Where like that's why I have a bunch of meetings next week. But I will say what's really interesting is like, I think we need to distill it down into exactly what you guys said, which is like, hey, I have a use case and it's this. I want to send automated LinkedIn messages to prospects. Great. We have that. And by the way, a week later, we have these other 17 things that you can do. And little bit by little bit, it's like, oh, well, have you thought about automating that with pulling in your content from your website or doing this and et cetera? And so I think making it really, really great. Like one thing we're going to be launching soon is that when you log in, it's just going to ask you, what do you want to do? Right? I want to write content. I want to do this. I want to manage my calendars. And we're just going to push you to that one thing. And then we're going to drip the rest of the content. Okay? The onboarding is pretty much like you land in and you see everything. So I think there's that. The usage-based pricing, I think also is, it's scary. One of the ways that we're going to do it is like, hey, based on your team size, based on your use cases, based on the things you want to do, here's the recommended credit budget that you will probably run into. But that's still a recommendation at the end of the day. Unfortunately, until these models just get cheaper where like it's too cheap to meter, it won't matter. Right now, like we could add a really bad model in there. It's just, and it's going to be really cheap and we won't have to charge you for it, but it's going to be really bad. Right. And so it kind of like defeats the purpose. So it's kind of like this chicken and egg, but everything you guys said, I agree with. It's really just like normally the product market fit or the development of the app takes years. And so you're able to truncate down. Based on our experience, based on what we've been able to do, based on like the recap history, we've done, I don't know, in 3 weeks, what most teams probably do in 2-3 years. And so now it's tightening that as well.
Opposed to usage-based, the consumption-based pricing, I think makes a lot of sense because you pay for the value you get out of it. I think it's still being kind of new is just an uphill battle with a lot of like procurement and finance teams, but that's a conversation for a different day. I do think we're pretty much up on time. That I know most of us have to jump in the next 10 minutes. Mark, thanks so much for coming on and being a great sport. This was awesome. It was so cool to see. And I look forward to Penelope's rebuttal in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm both excited and scared.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And so thank you for joining us.
No, I appreciate you guys letting me on with a new product that's half baked and changed the name already.
That was the goal of the show.
I'm gonna get this episode out as soon as possible so that Yeah, so the timing worked.
And if you guys want access, let me know. I'll bump you to the top of the list, and we'll would love poke holes, try and break it, whatever.
I get a few more bonus points.
Hey.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mark.
it, Mark.
See you.
All right, we're leaving, right? Yep.
Yep.